Hey, what's up, DS3TV? I can see you haven't subscribed to the channel. It's kind of weird. You should subscribe. I mean, we got some good content here. And also, go to the Twitch that's in the link down in the description. Link is probably right here under me. And yeah, should do all of that. And yeah, please subscribe. Get to see me have hot sauce that I don't really want to have when we get to 10,000. So subscribe. What's up, DS3TV? We are back for another video. This one is the history of Cyprus explained in 10 minutes. Epimetheus. That's who the video is by. And I don't know if I said that right. Hopefully I did. If I didn't, sorry about that. You can say how to say it in the comment section. And yeah, let's get into it. Also, subscribe to the channel when we get to 10,000 subscribers before, by the end of the year. Yeah, let's get into it because I will get the hot ones hot sauce and drink that. So yeah, that's gonna be interesting since I don't like hot sauce in the very slightest. Yeah, and then also got some new updates. Videos come, the political type video that I wanted to do. Well, it's more so news. This first one is gonna be coming out tomorrow. I'm almost done editing it, so pretty good. And let's get into it and play.
In the furthest eastern portion of the Mediterranean, the island of Cyprus is the only island larger than a medium-sized rock, or pebble. Its strategically important location has made it a natural trading hub from ancient to modern times.
It is a really small island, though.
The island of Cyprus is approximately 140 miles long. It was once inhabited by tiny elephants and hippos. In prehistoric times, people showed up and put those guys out of business. They brought new, more pliable colleagues to repopulate the island, like sheep, goats, pigs, and cows. Also, some adventurous early seafarers kidnapped some deer from Mesopotamia and brought them to the island. Cyprus also has...
Deer meat was a staple on Cyprus for thousands of years. Wait, what? I didn't know that they had deer. That's insane.
The earliest grave where a human was buried with their pet cat. And for the rest of Cyprus's history, just imagine cats everywhere. In the 4th through mid-3rd millenniums BC, Cyprus's population slowly grew as farming and copper working became widespread. But Cyprus remained sparsely populated until some merchants from a far-off land arrived. The locals were probably like, "Would you like to buy a cat?" And the Minoans, from the island of Crete, probably responded, "Nah, bruh, but got any of these, totally not valuable green rocks? We just like the color." "Oh yeah, we got those everywhere." Literally.
Oh yeah, we got those everywhere. That's the most normal thing here. Come on, let me show you. It's kind of like the, when the Spanish, in conquistadors, came in and saw how they were just using gold for everything because it wasn't currency. So they were just using gold literally for necklaces and stuff like that. They didn't even care about the gold that much, which shows you the differences in societies that it was. Because they were because the Spanish conquistadors were they're just wasting the gold, and the natives were we're not basically the natives were using it how they saw they should use it, right? So yeah,
Literally can't dig in the hills here without finding them. We've been making chisels and jewelry out of it for ages. The green rocks were copper ore, one of 2 ingredients needed to make bronze, and literally everyone in the Bronze Age wanted copper. Cyprus's population rapidly grew as there was a boom in the copper trade. Exactly how this happened is a matter of scholarly debate. Either there was some Minoan colonization, or the prosperous times facilitated the island's pre-existing population to grow rapidly. In either case, the Minoan influence on the island was significant. For example, a modified form of the Minoan written script was used to write the local language. The Minoans, who dominated trade in the eastern Mediterranean, suffered a long series of natural disasters in the first half of the 2nd millennium BC, culminating in the conquest of the island by the mainland Mycenaean Greeks. While the Mycenaeans were busy consolidating power in the Aegean Sea, the inhabitants of Cyprus took all that they had learned from the Minoans and filled the economic trade vacuum in the eastern Mediterranean. With no middleman gobbling up all the profits, the island of Cyprus became fabulously wealthy. The kingdom of Alashia was either the dominant or sole power on the island. In their correspondence with Egyptian pharaohs,
That's pretty good. Honestly, that's a pretty good plan. So that way you don't have to you just cut out the middleman right then and there. That's a pretty good plan.
both rulers referred to each other as brother, which put the kings of Alashia in an exclusive club, of which the kings of Assyria were not part of. They tried to be, but that didn't work out. During the 15th and 14th centuries BC, Alashia enjoyed a peaceful golden age. They sold large quantities of their much-in-demand copper and taxed tin coming from the west. The kingdom of Alashia had close relations with the Egyptians, the Canaanite city of Ugarit, and the Mycenaean Greeks, many of whom began to settle in Cyprus. During the late 13 and 1200s BC, Alashia's fortunes began to turn. Pirates, like the Sheridan and the Luca, from southwestern Anatolia, began to disrupt trade in the eastern Mediterranean. Then, to make matters worse, the powerful Hittite Empire laid claim to the island. They fought against the kings of Alashia on at least 3 occasions, including the earliest recorded, datable naval battle in history. Eventually, the Hittites did conquer Alashia, but they did not get to enjoy it for very long. The Hittite Empire collapsed shortly afterwards. The Egyptians credited a pilfering pack of piratical paramilitary party poopers, known as the Sea People, with destroying the empire and the Mediterranean world.
That's such a cool name. The Sea People. It just sounds like some badass pirates.
Except Egypt. What happened around this time on Cyprus is a bit hazy, to say the least, and the island may have been a base of operations for the Sea Peoples, and some of the Alashians may have joined them, but theories abound. There also appears to have been another wave of Mycenaean migration to the island around this time of the Bronze Age collapse. From the archaeological record, the destruction on Cyprus was not quite as bad as most other places in the eastern Mediterranean. While the surrounding region languished in a dark age, Cyprus recovered relatively quickly. Several prosperous independent kingdoms formed on the island. These kingdoms had close trading links with other eastern...
That looks so broken. That looks like literally like so many broken sections, but I mean, you know, if they were all prosperous, it's fine.
Mediterranean peoples that emerged early from the Dark Age, like the Phoenicians and Philistines. The Phoenicians colonized part of the island, and their culture was widespread throughout Cyprus. These independent times ended when the resurgent Assyrian Empire conquered nearly all of the ancient Near East, and finally took Cyprus in 709 BC. Like the Hittites before them, the Assyrians held on to the island for only a few decades, and then quickly declined and collapsed. Cyprus enjoyed independence again for about a century. Then, a cavalcade of empires conquered the island. First, a momentarily resurgent Egypt took Cyprus for a couple of decades. Then, the gigantic Persian Empire conquered the island. The local client kings launched 2 failed rebellions. Then, while Alexander of Macedon was dismantling the Persian Empire, the Cypriots sided with the Kid, who then died, shortly after completing his conquest of the Persian Empire. In the following civil war that broke out after Alexander's death, the Cypriots sided with Ptolemy against Antigonus. The island changed hands a couple of times, but ultimately stood under Ptolemaic control.
I think we actually watched a video on when Ptolemy was, you know, like when they had Ptolemy ruling Cyprus. I think we watched like a couple videos on the battles there.
Control for 2.5 centuries. During this time, the culture of the island became almost completely Greek, with other Near Eastern traits disappearing. Cyprus was ruled by a Ptolemaic client king, subservient to his relative in Egypt. In 58 BC, the Romans annexed Cyprus, pretty much by showing up and saying, "Okay, we're in charge now." And the Cypriots were like, "Okay, whatever." Then, the humiliated Ptolemaic king killed himself. Later, the Roman general Mark Antony gave the island back to Egypt, only to be reclaimed by Octavian a short while afterwards. According to the Christian Gospels, Cyprus was the destination of the first missionary trip by the Apostle Paul. Afterwards, the new faith rapidly spread throughout the empire. During the nearly 700 years of uninterrupted Roman rule on Cyprus, the island was a prosperous trading hub that was almost always peaceful. Besides the one time there was a major revolt that led to several massacres and the island's Jewish population being deported. The western and eastern halves of the
That was a really quick glance over that. It was at 240,000, I believe.
Empire permanently split in 395 AD, but very little changed on the island. Major change occurred in the mid-7th century when the Arab Umayyad Empire garrisoned an army on Cyprus, but it did not control the whole island. In 688, the Arabs and the Eastern Romans arranged an unusual treaty where they would both jointly rule Cyprus and split the taxes 50-50. Amazingly, despite near constant conflict on the mainland, the treaty was more or less followed for more than 2.5 centuries. In 965, the Byzantine Eastern Romans reconquered the island. Several governors staged failed revolts over the next 2 centuries. During the Crusades, Richard the Lionheart conquered Cyprus. After they kept rebelling, because of heavy taxation, Richard decided to cash out and sell the island to the Knights Templar. After rebellions continued, they sold the island to the fleeing king of Jerusalem, Guy de Lusignan, who had just been released from captivity by the Kurdish Sultan Salahuddin. Guy split up the island with more of his fleeing crusader buddies, and the Kingdom of Cyprus was later established. The kingdom had a French ruling class that allowed the majority Greek population to live under their own laws and customs. All the French kings cared about was if taxes were paid. In 1489, the Venetian merchant class, who had had a presence on the island for more than 400 years, took control of the island. The Venetians ruled over Cyprus for a little less than a century, during which time Cyprus was repeatedly raided by the Ottoman Turks. In the fourth of 7 Ottoman and Venetian wars, Cyprus was invaded by a massive Turkish army, which may have numbered as many as 100,000 men. First, the capital of Nicosia was besieged and sacked. Afterwards, its population was massacred or enslaved. This prompted much of the island to immediately surrender, excluding the fortified city of Famagusta. The siege lasted for almost a year, during which time the Ottoman army swelled in size to over 200,000 men, according to some accounts at the time. The city was ultimately lost, but the lengthy siege enabled the Pope to organize an anti-Ottoman league. The coalition was able to decisively defeat the Ottomans at sea 2 months later in a massive naval battle, which slowed Ottoman expansion. In the following centuries, many Ottoman settlers moved to Cyprus. However, the majority of the island's population remained ethnically Greek. Cyprus was initially prosperous under Ottoman rule. However, over time, high taxes and a failing economy led to several failed revolts and a steadily growing independence movement. In 1878, the Ottoman Empire gave Cyprus to the British Empire in exchange for support against the Ruskies. Cyprus became
Getting
the
more
British
towards present day.
protectorate. In 1914, the British formally annexed Cyprus in response to Turkey's alliance with Germany. British rule was widely supported by Turkish Cypriots, while the majority Greek population mostly supported the independence movement from Great Britain. Throughout the 1950s, revolts against British rule and ethnic conflict erupted throughout Cyprus. In 1960, the British ended their occupation of Cyprus, minus a couple sovereign base areas. The island's Archbishop, Makarios, became Cyprus's first president. After trying to form a functional government, conflict broke out again between the Greeks and Turks. After a very messy series of events that included a coup d'etat and a Turkish invasion, a ceasefire was negotiated. Cyprus was split between the Greek and Turkish populations, and UN peacekeepers were deployed in a buffer zone between the two sides. Since then, relations on the island have slowly improved, but remain tense. In 2004, the Republic of Cyprus joined the European Union, and later adopted the euro. Today, approximately 1.2 million people live on the island of Cyprus. If you are one of them.
And isn't it, I think only Turkey recognizes the Republic of Northern Cyprus. Nobody else recognizes the Republic of Northern Cyprus.
Where I've visited Cyprus before. Let me know what's your favorite thing to eat on Cyprus, and what's your favorite place to visit. I would love to visit one day.
If I have anybody that's watching from Cyprus, I actually would want to know how is it, and what do you what is your favorite food that you would recommend there? And yeah, just kind of how is it between everyday people? Is just talking is talking to someone from Northern Cyprus taboo, or something like that? I always just kind of wondered that too. But yeah, looks like that's the end of the video. Talk to you guys in the next video. Yeah, subscribe to the channel. Talk to you guys in the next video. Link down in the description for my Twitch, and a lot of other stuff is in the link. Also, my Patreon is down there. You'll get the video a whole 24 hours. You'll get new videos a whole 24 hours before this one, and before the video comes out or whatever. Also, you will get you can actually ask for stuff that would be like copyrighted on YouTube, and I will react to it. And yeah, I will react to it and have it on there, and that's going to be a Patreon exclusive if that will be on there. And you know, you guys can still watch it, watch me react to it. So yeah, talk to you guys in the next video, and yeah, peace.